Hare Hare Jaya Mr. Bharat Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Santarana Upanishad Divine Grace Santarana Goswami Abhay Chandra Vinay Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Mr. Bharat Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Santarana Upanishad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Thakur Ki Jaya Anantapuri Vaishnavendi Ki ISKCON Beauty Founder Charge Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Brahmji Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanachan Punarada Kunikini Govardhan Ki Shri Vidabhadama Turadam Ki Shri Navadik Maya Puram Ki Shri Jagannath Puri Ram Ki Gopamai Jamunamai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Shri Guru Parampara Ki Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Samavita Bhaktavinda Ki Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tunamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharini Vishesha Shunyavadi Pashakti Desatani Chalya Seva Brahma Limat Gupta Bhaman Padana Kamira Janita Janata Keshavarita Bhamana Rupa Jai Jagdisha Hare Jai Jagdisha Hare Jai Jagdisha. So the Lord is here, waiting to be praised with Vedic mantras. You all have your copy of Kali Santarana Upanishad. So now let us begin to chant. Hari Om Dvaparam Te Narada Brahmanam Jagama Katam Bhagavan Ayatan Kalim Santarayamiti Sahovacha Brahma Sadhu Krishtosmi Savashruti Rahasyam Mohyam Tatshadu Yena Kami Samsaram Krishyasi Bhagavata Hari Purushasya Narayanasya Namochana Mantrina Nidu Kavir Bhavati Narada Punapacha Tannama Kamiti Sahovacha Hiranyagarbha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Iti Shorashakam Namna Kali Kalmashanashanam Nata Paravaro Vayo Sarvavedeshu Drishyate Iti Shorashakalasya Nivasya Vardana Vinashanam Tatavakasate Pala Brahma Mega Paila Vidasmi Mandalivati Punar Narda Prapacha Bhagavan Kosha Vihirati Tam Hovacha Nasya Vihirati Sarvada Suchira Suchirva Patam Brahmana Salokatam Samipatam Sarupatam Suyujata Meti Yadasya Surishakasya Sadhati Kotir Japati Tatava Mahatyam Charati Virahatyam Svanastayat Puto Bhavati Pitta Deva Manushanama Pakarat Puto Bhavati Sarvadharmam Prityaga Bhava Sadhya Suchitama Puyat Sadhya Muchate Iti Upanishad. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai. So we'll have kirtan now. Jaya Shri Krishna Hare Jayo Mishnapad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtatra Satya Shishimad Divine Grace Chaitanya Goswami Ovai Chandravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jayo Mishnapad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtatra Satya Shishimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Thakur ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavinda ki ISKCON BB Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Anamacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Premji Goshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopavana Cham Gurunara Kunigiri Gopadan ki Shri Midabhadam Paturadam ki Shri Navdeep Maya Puram ki Shri Jagannath Puriram ki Gangamai Jamunamai ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki Shri Guru Parampara ki His Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharni Nivashiksha Shunyabari Pashyachadi Satarni. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, as we heard, the last verse, Kali Santarana Upanishad, ends with Iti Upanishad. That is the Upanishad. So the seminar is now completed. And we have a wonderful feast waiting in the wings to be honored by all of you. So actually I didn't plan to say anything unless someone here might have some questions. I can discuss any point you may like to raise. Padmasambhava Prabhu is always good for a question. But tonight you're speechless. He was cooking tonight. Actually, the wonderful thing about this Upanishad is that it shows us that chanting Hare Krishna is the answer to all questions. Because that statement, Iti Shorishkam Nam Nam Kali Kalmashanashanam Nata Paratropayo Sarva Vedeshu Drishati, that you can look through all the Vedas and you will not find another method to overcome the evil influence of Kali Yuga other than this, to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So some devotees, sometimes they find it maybe a little simplistic, especially those devotees who like to think up very difficult questions, or what they think are difficult questions. Like I said, when I visit the former Soviet Union, they're experts in imagining such kind of very tangential questions, really off the point of anything central in Krishna consciousness, but for some reason their brains work in that way. So these kind of devotees who spend a lot of mind energy thinking up what they consider deep questions, they may find it a little, as I say, simplistic or even annoying if the answer they get is, just chant Hare Krishna, Prabhu, like you.
I haven't asked any questions.
I know, because I already told you something. Just chant Hare Krishna. But you see, this Kali Santarana Upanishad proves that chanting Hare Krishna is the answer to all questions. Because you can't find any other answer in the Vedic scriptures for the problems of Kali Yuga. And all of our questions that we have are arising because we're in this age of Kali. You see, the age of Kali is described in that way in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Tatascha nudinam dharmam, what is that? Bala Baulisam. Anyway, I've forgotten the verse right now, but it's describing all the things that are deteriorating in the age of Kali. And among them we find memory is going, and intelligence is going, and dharma. Dharma means, of course, religiosity, or even the understanding of religious principles. So all of these are reducing, and thus our minds are clouded with so many doubts and, Prabhupada would say, misgivings, and we fail to see the answer to so many questions and problems. So there is one answer to all of them, and that is chant Hare Krishna. See? And this Upanishad, the Upanishad, as I told you already, that means the most philosophically dense portion of the scriptures. This is the real brain-breaking shastras, those Upanishads. So Kali Sanchara Upanishad is really coming to a nice conclusion for the Upanishads. Just chant Hare Krishna. So by saying that, I think I've answered all questions. Oh, now you've got a question.
I don't know whether I have understood it properly. I think you had mentioned, I think last class or last to last class, about even in Kali Santarana Upanishad, they talk about Hare Krishna. There is something more. Even Brahma is not able to tell that or something, which will complete it.
Well, I was talking about the aspect of prema, Krishna prema, which Lord Chaitanya is transmitting through the vibration Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has infused the Mahamantra with his own prema, and there is no one who can have more prema than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is the very divine couple in one form. He is Radha and Krishna. It is said that he arises like the golden moon. If one stands on the Bay of Bengal, that's facing east, and one is there during Brahma Muhurta hour, then you can see, especially at a good place to do this is Puri. Stand on the beach at Puri, then you'll see, I'm talking about the sunrise, actually I mean to say the moonrise in the evening. You see the moon come up over the horizon. And the waves at Puri, the sea waves, are very, very strong, so the ocean is churning. So this is a very nice imagery. So from this imagery we get the explanation that from the churning of the transcendental love affair of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, the golden moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rises up. So it is a very beautiful image to meditate upon. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has the absolute maximum prema, and by his mercy he has infused the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with that prema. So Lord Brahma, because only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can do that, so Lord Brahma in this Upanishad, and this is an Upanishad, so Upanishads, you see, they point to moksha dharma, they point to liberation. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught prema punarto maha, that beyond that fourth stage, that fourth dimension of human endeavors, which, as I said, as far as the Upanishads are concerned, that's the limit. One should achieve, one should strive for moksha, liberation. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taught that beyond even moksha there's something more, and that is prema. He has called that the Purushartha Shiromani. In Vedic language, Purushartha, Purusha Artha, Purusha means human being, Artha means goal of life. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, those are the Chaturvarga, the four goals of life that are laid out for anyone who is following the Vedic culture. And of course, Moksha, Mukti, that is apparently the last goal, the final one. But he has said, Prema, Purushartha Shiromani. You know this word, I think, Shiromani, the crown jewel.
The crown jewel of arthas or goals is prema, Krishna prema. So Prabhupada calls this the fifth dimension. It's a very new agey kind of way of expressing it now. Many people have latched onto this fifth dimension. But Srila Prabhupada used this term, that prema is the fifth dimension of human endeavor. And so we will not find this in the Upanishads. Because the Upanishads, all of them focus, even those Upanishads which directly reveal knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will not discuss prema, love of Krishna. That is more confidential even. So that is to be revealed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Brahma, knowing this, he only spoke in this Kali Santarana Upanishad in terms of liberation. You see, Kalir Nirdhutta Kalmashaha. So to become, Nirdhutta means cleansed, to become cleaned off of all the dirt of Kali Yuga. Santaranya, to cross over this ocean of Kali to get to the other side, the spiritual world. Salokatam, Samipatam, Surupatam, Sujatamiti, 4 kinds of liberations are mentioned. So, by saying that, I don't want to give the impression that Kali Santarana Upanishad is somehow on some lower level. No, it's just that the revelation of love of Krishna is most confidential. It is the rarest of rare things. And therefore, the Supreme Lord Himself comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give that revelation. So, Hare Krishna Mahamantra is already there in Vedic scriptures. It is the Yuga Dharma. Everyone should chant it. And by chanting it, everyone will attain liberation. You see? This is the wonder, already such a wonderful thing. Just chant Hare Krishna and one becomes freed from all sins and all karmas. So wonderful. But even more wonderful is if we can receive this Mahamantra in the disciplic succession of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we get the Mahamantra which is dripping with the honey of love of Krishna. So wonderful. Already it's so wonderful. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes it even much, 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 much more wonderful and relishable and tasty and nectarian and enlivening to the heart. Enlivening to the heart with His own personal prema, Gaura prema, that He is always relishing within Himself. His mission is to distribute that, and He distributes it through the chanting of Hare Krishna. We see when He was touring India that He was always chanting. It is said, like a lion He was chanting. He was always chanting in kirtan, or when He was not chanting kirtan, if He was just sitting down, then His mouth, His tongue was always engaged. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You see, as if His tongue had a life of its own, not able to stop chanting. So whoever would hear this chanting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then the mantra would pass through their ears and into their heart, and they would become filled with the ecstasy of love of Godhead. And they would go running off like madmen and mad women. You can just imagine, running off in all directions. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. And whoever would hear them, see them, that Mahamantra would enter their ears, and they would feel love of God. And they would go running off. And this is the way Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread Sankirtan, all alone, when He went down to South India or elsewhere. As a sannyasi, He was traveling all alone or with one servant. And yet He converted untold thousands and thousands of people to the chanting of Hare Krishna because of the potency that He injected into these syllables. So that's what I was referring to. Yes?
I think I read somewhere actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken 2 instructions from all the 4 sampradayas. What are those things?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to remember that. That would require me to go look that up somewhere. I probably have it on my computer somewhere. The 2 instructions from the 4 Sampradayacharyas is not a question I'm asked every day, I'm sorry. I don't have it on the tip of my tongue. But I can think of, I think, probably the important ones. Well, all of them are important, but some come to mind, standing out. From Ramanujacharya, one that he took was the principle of Vaishnava Seva, service to the Vaishnavas. In that Sampradaya, I have seen myself, and you can all see too, if anyone is able to go to South India and visit Sri Rangam or any of the great Sri Vaishnava temples. It's very nice how these Sri Vaishnava Brahmins, when they recognize you as a Vaishnava, how they welcome you and bring you in and show you around. And I was brought, when I was at Sri Rangam, and then one of the older brahmanas who was very, very well respected. He comes from descended in one of the, I think, one of the Alwars families. So he's considered to be very, very special. So he personally brought me inside the deity room of Lord Rangana. And of course, I'm from Western country, you know. Of course, the Sri Vaishnavas they're not in this Jata consciousness anyway, but I thought it was very surprising that he brought me right in, up close to Lord Ranganath, for special darshan. And all the brahmanas, they gathered and they were chanting mantras and giving me prasad. So there were a couple of godbrothers, so everyone was taking tulsi prasad and sweets. And it was very, very nice. So this principle of Vaishnava Seva, the importance of serving the devotees, it is said that Lord Chaitanya has, of course, being the Lord himself, then he has given these principles to the Vaishnava Acharyas in the first place. But in his movement, he was very careful to see that this principle is very much enshrined in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. From Madhva's Sampradaya, Sripad Madhvacharya, he has taken the principle that the form of Krishna is the absolute truth, because at Udupi, the central temple at Udupi is the Sri Krishna Mat, and there the deity of Lord Krishna, that deity which Sripad Madhvacharya took from a big piece of chandan, which was being used as ballast in a ship. The ship was floundering on the sea coast. So Madhvacharya gave directions, waving his chada so that the captain could bring the ship in safely. And then the ship was loaded with goods, and the captain, being very grateful, he was saying, we have so many nice, valuable merchandise, please take something. You have saved this ship. Madhvacharya said, I only want what you've got in the bottom of the ship. And there was a big ball of chandan, which, they have to have some weight in the center bottom of a ship to keep its balance in the water. So it was being used for that. So these hefty sailors, they went down and they couldn't lift it. It was too heavy, so Madhvacharya, he went down and he himself picked the whole thing up, carried it out. And then when he set it on the shore, it cracked, broke open, and the deity of Sri Krishna was revealed. And so he took that deity himself and installed it. So in the this Brahma Sampradaya of the Tattvavari followers of Madhvacharya, then that is the most important deity the central temple. So Sri Krishna, the form of Lord Krishna, is the absolute truth. So Lord Chaitanya has taken that from Nimbarkacharya, worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. Because like the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the Nimbaditya Sampradaya of Nimbarkacharya, who are also very prominent in Vrindavan, and they're also worshipping Shri Radha and Krishna. So these are some of those 8 points that come to my mind. Anything else?
Could you tell us a little bit about alvas?
Huh?
The alvas that you talk about. Could you tell us a little who they are and how did they?
Okay, very briefly. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we have the 6 Goswamis. So the 6 Goswamis are 6 extraordinarily advanced and Krishna conscious associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nana Shastra Vichadanaika Nipano Shaddharma Samstapako, they have gone through all the revealed scriptures and they have compiled the Saddharma, the essential teachings of Krishna consciousness, drawing from all the Vedas, all the Puranas, all the Itihasas, every scripture. They have extracted the essence, which is Krishna consciousness. And so their Granta, the Goswami Granta, are most authoritative, and they are the theological foundation of this Krishna consciousness. So Sri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Nadati Svapadandikam. This prayer to Rupa Goswami. Because of the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, he's the Rasacharya. He is the most, everyone has their expertise, every one of the 6 Goswamis, like Jiva Goswami. Srila Prabhupada says, the greatest philosopher the world has ever known or will ever know. You want to learn philosophy, then read Jiva Goswami. There's no one who can approach Jiva Goswami. And Sri Sanatana Goswami is the ideal Diksha Guru, initiating spiritual master. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami is the expert in deity worship. So Rupa Goswami is the Rasacharya, for rasa, tasting the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So this prayer to Rupa Goswami, that you have understood the mission of Lord Chaitanya in this world, and therefore I am awaiting your blessings. This is the prayer, awaiting the blessings of Srila Rupa Goswami, who has understood the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyway, in our Sampradaya we have the 6 Goswamis, and in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya they have the 12 Alvars. And these 12 Alvars, yes, they're called Divya Suris, which means liberated souls, like the 6 Goswamis, liberated Vaishnavas, who came and established in South India in very ancient times, because the Alvars, they appeared in this world, some of them still within the Dwapara Yuga, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, and the rest early on in the Kali Yuga. So in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the 12 Alvars, they laid down all that they have written and sung many poems in the Tamil language. This collection is called the Divya Prabandham. And so all the Vaishnava truths are expressed in this Divya Prabandham. This is called the Tamil Veda. Everything is there, even the conjugal love. This is especially expressed by Andal or Goda Devi. She is among the 12 Alvars. She is the female Alvar. And she left this world exactly as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, by merging into the deity. Lord Chaitanya merged into Tota Gopinath at Puri, disappeared within the deity. And Andal, she was married to Sri Ranganath, the deity, because it's a very wonderful story. I'll tell this one story. It's so nice. Such a sweet story. She was a little girl, and she had been found in a garden by another Alvar, who was a gardener. And this is at a place called Triviliputtur, which also they have a great Sri Vaishnava temple there. And so he was the gardener for the deity at Triviliputtur, and he found Goda Devi in the garden, a little girl. So then he just raised her as if she was his daughter. And so she grew up learning all the things. He was picking the flowers and the tulsi and making garlands for the deity, and always telling her about Krishna, telling her the glories of the deity. And especially he was telling her about the deity of Ranganath, that was far away from where they were. But as a pure devotee, he was having darshan of Lord Ranganath in his heart also. So he was telling her about Lord Ranganath. And she would make the garlands, and thinking of her Lord, then she would always put the garland on herself first, after she made it. And her adopted father didn't know this until later. He discovered that she was doing this, and he was a little disturbed, and he said, "My dear Goda Devi, didn't I teach you that we offer everything first to the deity? But you have put the garland on yourself. And all those garlands I took and offered to the deity after you had worn them. This is not very good." And then she said, but she explained to him that the reason she did this is out of intense love. She wanted to be sure that the garland was nice, and so she put it on herself, just to see that everything was nice about the garland. And then he thought about that, and he considered, actually, yes, he could understand that her level of attachment to Krishna was very, very, very strong, because we would normally take that to be a break of the vidya, a break of the regulation. But her only motivation was love. So he was very impressed with the depth of her devotion. So then when she got a little older, it was coming the time for her to be married. And of course marriage is supposed to be arranged by the father in traditional Vedic households. So he started to make inquiries, who can take this girl as wife? And then he got, there was some possibilities. So then he went to have a talk with her, and he said, "My dear, Goda Devi, you're reaching the age where you should be married. There are some boys we can arrange you to be married to." And then she said, "I cannot be married to anyone of this world. You have told me since I was a baby about the Lord. I've fallen in love with Him. I can only accept Him as my husband. This is your fault, my father. You only told me about Krishna. So I've given my heart to Krishna. I can't marry anyone else." Then he was very perplexed what to do. His mind was deeply troubled. He didn't know how to argue with her. Then, just a little bit later, a marriage party arrived, all the way from Srirangam. marriage party. I mean the a groom, one who is going to marry a girl, will send out men, a band, to pick up the girl and bring her to him. So this party arrived, and it was with musicians, a whole entourage, Brahmins chanting, and they came right up to the Sri Viliputur temple. So everyone was watching. What's this? And it was announced that this party has come from the Ranganath temple. And everyone was really getting perplexed. Who at the Ranganath temple is going to get married to someone here? And then it was announced that Lord Ranganath himself has sent this party. And that the party is here to collect one Andal, one Goda Devi. And everyone was really astonished. What? And then it turned out that through by giving one Brahmana back at Sri Rangam a dream, Lord Ranganath revealed that he desired to marry Goda Devi. And at the same time she was thinking, I can only marry the Lord. So then she was put on the palanquin and brought all the way back. This is a long, long way to the temple of Ranganath. And there the Brahmins arranged a splendid marriage ceremony for the deity and this girl. And then when the time came for her to go to the deity, as you know, there's this knot tying ceremony so when she was brought close to the deity, and then she was seen by everyone just to enter into the body of the deity, and she was no more in this world.
Right.
So this is a beautiful story. And so she was one of the Alvars, and her poems especially, she's written some very beautiful poems expressing this conjugal love for the Lord. So this is the idea of conjugal love for Krishna is it's not something new, it's not something only in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis have explained this in a fully transcendentally scientific way. But it is there since very olden times. So anyway, these are the... Yes?
She was quite young when she became married?
Yes, of course, at that age when they used to get girls.
So she'd been writing also from quite young?
She had been?
Writing? Poetry, you said?
Yes. Well, now how she composed the poems, I can't say if she wrote them. Often what might happen is someone who is a poet or poetess would recite, and someone else might write them down, a scribe. So
But
that
she
is
was
also possible.
Composing?
Yes, she was composing, yes.
Very young.
Yes. And she's considered a very brilliant poetess. Of course, you have to know Tamil to appreciate it. I have seen, on the internet you can find some translations,
Really?
but I think probably much is lost in translation.
What is her name again?
Her Tamil name is Andal,
Andal.
and that in Sanskrit is Goda Devi.
Goda Devi.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a
Oh, now you have a question.
yeah, but that question is not related
Just
to
general
the
question.
philosophy.
Okay.
It is related to what you were stating now. I don't know, how important that bhakt is, but Meera is also supposed to be quite a bhakt of Krishna.
Mirabai.
Yeah,
Mirabai,
and
yes.
Mirabai is, but still we do not find Mirabai referred any I don't know exactly, because I just heard about one or two bhajans about Mira.
Yes. Well, Mirabai is celebrated in India as she's kind of a popular figure. And her story is very nice, but in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, she is not considered to be an example of this pure prema of Krishna, because in her writings there is some influence of impersonalism, and that her goal seemed to be more of a losing her identity in the person of Krishna. At least in some of her poems that seems to be expressed. So this is why I'm not, this is what I've learned from Prabhupada, and don't take this as a kind of criticism, but it's just a fact. So her poems to Krishna are, yes, they're very sincere and emotional, but in terms of philosophy, it was not so clear, you see. So one of my godbrothers, very early on, he picked up a Mirabai kirtan, and he was singing this in Los Angeles. And Sunset Boulevard, he used to go out. And so he was leading the devotees in this Gopala, Gopala, Yashodananda Gopala, 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 Devakinandana Gopala song. And when Prabhupada came to know of this, he stopped him from singing that. He said, the song may have been sung by a great devotee, he was referring to Mirabai, but it was not sung by a great authority, Prabhupada said. So, in a sampradaya, Vaishnava sampradaya, whether Gaudiya Vaishnava sampradaya or Shri Vaishnava sampradaya, Madhva sampradaya, they're very, very, very much concerned with authority, that everything we do be approved by acharyas. So Mirabai is not really in a sampradaya. She's more, just spontaneous. And I've read Mirabai's songs, and the ones I've read I liked, but I've not read everything she's written, but this is what I have heard, that there is in some of them, tinge of impersonalism, which means that she was not so, philosophically focused. All right. Yes?
Maharaj, I understand that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Udupi and talked with the Tattvalis, he also told them there was some mixture of God and something
Yes.
else in now.
Karma and Jnana.
Yeah. Now, do you understand that had happened since Madhvacharya's time, and whether that carried on, whether they accepted that guidance from him or not, or was that actually coming from Madhvacharya? You know?
Yes, we have to understand the mission of these great Sampradaya Acharyas, all of them. Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nibarkacharya, Vishnu Swami. They were themselves Brahmin, they were Acharyas, and they came to establish Vaishnavism as the real Vedantic conclusion. So their audience that they came to preach to were Brahmanas. The whole discussion of Vedanta takes place among Brahmanas. Shankaracharya started it. He established first of all this his mat, and so Ramanuja Madhva came after him, and they were preaching to the same community of Brahmanas and establishing their Vedantic point of view, their Vaishnava, whether Vishishta Dvaita, which is the Ramanuja philosophy, or Dvaita, which is the Madhva philosophy. So they're preaching to Brahmanas of quite, a long time ago, millennia ago or more, 1,000 years ago or more. So those brahmanas were very strict. Very hard to find any brahmin in today who would be as strict as them. Very much engaged in ritualistic performances. And so the preaching was in terms of Vedanta, the Upanishads, and the practice of devotional service was in terms of Brahminical duties, especially stressed because they were preaching, these acharyas were preaching to the brahmanas. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Udupi, then he asked the acharya of that time, what is the goal of life? And the acharya replied, the goal of life is that you follow Varnashram Dharma. And in this way, by doing your duty for Krishna perfectly, one will attain liberation. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now this is the type of answer that one would expect to hear from such a Brahman, you see. But this was not good enough for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he replied that the real goal of life is devotion, to execute the 9 principles of devotional service, regardless of one's position in Varna or Ashram. He cited the verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj, in terms of guna and karma, was an asura, a demon. And yet, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's the one who speaks the famous verse, Shravanam Kirtam Vishnu Smana Padasevanam. He's the one who presents the 9 processes of devotional service. And the Tattvavadi Acharya could not, he had to admit that actually you're right. But he said, we are here, we follow the policies that have been established by Madhvacharya. This is our sect, in other words, this is what we do. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, yes, so therefore you have, your sampradaya has these features of karma and gyan in it. But there's one good thing, the excellent quality of your sampradaya is that you worship Krishna. And actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted the lineage of the Tattvavadi Sampradaya. His own Sampradaya is linked to the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. So goes back to Madhva, then Vyas, then Narada Muni, then Lord Brahma, like that. So this is a thing to keep in mind, that we shouldn't look negatively on this. It's just the mission of these great acharyas. They were Vedantic acharyas. They came to preach the proper understanding of Vedanta, Vaishnava understanding, and their audience was mainly Brahmanas. They established their schools among Brahmanas. So that is Acharya. All right then, before it gets